So this year is given the Ilui Nishmas, so Zechariah, Vehav, Ben Chaim, Yonah, and also the Nishmas, Michael ben Ari, Zat Hashem. Hashem should have a Aliyah, Zat Hashem. So last time we left off, we were talking about a person having emunah in himself. So we brought up the fact that Rebbeinu had said to Rebbe Nachman, we brought up the story one time that he told Rebbe Nachman that you have emunah, but in yourself you don't have emunah, right? So for Rebbe Nachman, who felt on himself, he was a big mom, and he was taken aback a little bit by this. But we see that even after some time, he knew that this was true, because Rebbe Nachman, when he was looking at other people who were greater than him, and he saw that there were people much bigger than him, and he didn't understand, Rebbeinu said, you're not allowed to ask this question, which made me think about this very, very similar exchange happened between the Ari and the Chaim Vital, also too. Because the Chaim Vital also didn't think of himself as something worthy, and he thought also there were greater people in the generation, but he's the one that has the opportunity and the skills to be the main talmid of the Ari. And the Ari went on to reveal to him that all the different gilgulim and different things that he had that let him know. But he also told him, he says, Lefi, what you fighting in your generation compared to what the Tanoim and other people in their generation, it's a completely different matzav. So when I say that you're huge, you're big, you need to know that you're big. But each and every person needs to know that about themselves, that I'm huge, I'm big, I'm gadol, I'm mamish, I'm something special, and I'm something very, very big. And Hashem put me here in the world that right now, whatever it is that Hashem wants and needs to be accomplished through me, it can only be accomplished through me. Hashem designed it that way. Hashem wanted it to be that way. So a person has to have a moon in himself, whatever he's encountering in his life, and quiet is kept. That's one of the hardest things for a person to actually do. Like, we all feel very self-confident in things that we know well. But what happens when you come to things that you don't feel like you know so well? When you come to a certain place and you feel like, I'm not holding over here, I'm not holding. Sometimes it's better off to not act like you know that you're holding and you're not holding. But a lot of times, Hashem's saying it's time for you to step up, and I'm calling for you to do it right now. A person has to have emunah in himself. So it's very, very important. And he brought over there that some tzaddikim have opposition because of it. So they have opposition from the failed emunah in themselves, not believing in themselves. So that can cause the opposition itself, only because they don't have faith in themselves. So the next part of it is, he says to speak out your emunah. You have to speak out your faith. He says that emunah depends on a person's mouth. So we must say that we believe and say it out loud. And he brings from Tehillim here, he says, I will make your faithfulness known with my soul. It's from Tehillim. And he says, when a person is experiencing a crisis of faith, right, he's struggling at some point in his emunah, says, or even when he's got doubts and they're passing over him, it's very beneficial for the person to say, I believe, no matter the case. I still believe, an imam, I believe in Hashem. I believe Hashem is going to help me. I believe Hashem is going to say, I believe Hashem is with me. I believe Hashem exists, right? And the reason why it's so important is because, think about it, the emes is that the whole entire Bria was brought in all throughout the mouth. All throughout, from Hashem uttering the words, right? Not the physical mouth, but Hashem uttering the words. We know that the whole Bria was brought about from just the words itself. So ultimately, we understand that by a person saying things, you can mamish bring things into reality. This is why Rebbeinu says that even when it comes to sheker, when it comes to heresy, if a person says something that's not because, so don't even mention it. Don't say it out loud. You don't want these words out there, because a person can bring about things by the way of saying these things out. And so he's saying that on the flip side over here, a person can strengthen himself in the emunah by just saying, I believe. I'm a man. I believe in Hashem. I believe Hashem is with me. Hashem is with me right now. And by that, a person can create and push himself and pull out his emunah. To simply giving expression to your mouth and the words in itself is an act of emunah. You're already acting on the emunah by saying it itself. And this can bring a person, he says, to emunah shlema. Just mamash. A person constantly speaking words of emunah. And we know this how it works, because how does a person strengthen himself at any point in his relationship with Hashem, and in any place he finds himself in terms of his emunah? He only strengthens himself by repetition of hearing emunah over and over and over again. Whether it's in shiurim, whether it's in reading seforim, whether it's being around people. It's one of the biggest reasons why it's so important to be around tzaddikim, because they didn't forget why they're here. When a person goes and they see a person who lives out emunah in the way that the person lives, it rubs off. So the whole entire thing of what we're doing right now is we're shifting. We're all shifting the way that we think. We're shifting the way that we look at the world. And the number one way is by speaking these things out, talking it, hearing it audibly over and over and over again. They say it's how a lot of great people in whatever field that they are end up achieving whatever it is also too. They have this whole idea. They came out with all type of books about speaking things into reality and all this other stuff. It's like, manifesting. Yeah, that's what it is. Manifesting. It's, huh?
Law of attraction.
Love attraction. Yeah, whatever. Law of attraction. Law of attraction. Right. Love attraction. Right. Whatever the case is, you like sitting too close. So the law of attraction, this idea, which, it just always sounds better when it's coming from tzaddikim, It's not like it's not a concept. Sometimes thinking that this in and of itself is it, and that's the problem usually with most of the self-help
end all be all
things that
it's the end all be all.
Right, exactly.
What's the problem with them?
What's
the problem?
The problem with it is that a lot of times they're not attributing it back to Hashem, back to the ultimate emes. And then what happens is to the person is they'll hear a certain speaker say something or bring this law of attraction, whatever, and they start to make somewhat of an avodah zarah out of the thing itself. It's not Hashem. Hashem is really doing it. We have at least have the concept of Ein Od Milvado. Why are we saying this? Why is he talking about emunah? Emunah in what? Rebbeinu is talking about Hashem. I have emunah in Hashem. I have emunah in myself. But the emunah that I have in myself is because I have Hashem. I'm a chelik of Hashem. Chelik mimah. I'm from Hashem. So the whole everything goes back to Hashem. When somebody else is saying it, and they're just motivational speaker, and they're telling you, if you keep doing this, I'm telling you, I guaranteed you, any day to wake up, person can make an avodah zarah out of it. You understand? So what happens when it doesn't work? You know what I'm saying? And then it doesn't work this time or whatever. He doesn't usually say I didn't do it right. He says the guy ripped me off. I paid for this seminar, and
so it could decrease someone's faith.
Absolutely.
But,
in that case, it's decreasing the person's faith in the thing. It's much worse when the person is a mom and the person professes, at least believes of himself that he believes in Hashem. And then when you hear from these people and they're telling you something, and then you get cut, you don't even know you're engaging in avodah zarah. Like, you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Avodah zarah, most people have it mixed up in the head, like it's just bowing down to some pesla, or even the Gemara brings a person that gets angry, and a person's about kas also too. It's like with avodah zarah. But I think it was brought, I heard it one time from my Rebbe in Sheshes, said Rebbe Brody had brought this up in the shir, and I forget what the makor was. I thought he said it was in the Nissim Shalom, or it may have been in the Nissim Shalom, I can't remember. But ultimately what he brought out, I don't know the makor of this, but I know for sure that it was a makor because my Rebbe brought it. He said that avodah zarah is all foreign worship. So if it's a zara to you, if it's foreign to you, it's already avodah zarah. A person who you go to see a very impressive and amazing tzaddik, whatever, and then you come back and you start talking like him, walking like him, it's avodah zarah also. You understand? It's a strange worship. It's not your worship. That's why it's important for each person to have a kesher with Hashem, to be able to know what is your way, right? What's your path? What kivun Hashem is taking you on? Because you don't want to do somebody else's avodah. You want to do your avodah. So everything that takes a person out of service of Hashem, or serving Hashem in the way that Hashem created that person to go on their path, is called a avodah. It's avodah zarah. That's strange to the person. So in this particular case of speaking things into existence, or listening to what a lot of these motivational people are saying, or whatever, if you hear these things, and this is one I practice, because sometimes it sounds like it's very good things. The person has to remind himself at the end of the day, first off, there's a line up to what Hashem is saying inside the Torah. That's the first thing. If it's no contradiction already, so the next part of it is that the person has to say, still, with Hashem help. It's Hashem. That's still, bring it up. You go and get advice from somebody in the business or whatever the case is, and it sounds really great, say with a consultation or whatever the case is, person still has to always elevate everything back to Hashem. Because the only thing force of moving or making things happen is Hashem himself. So this is the declaration of faith. And better to say this out loud. You have to say it in front of the person too, but you can say to yourself that, with Hashem self, im Hashem, always keeping the Hashem's name on your lips. And not just for stam, but really thinking about it. So he says, likewise over here, a person should be careful never to say anything which implies, even, this is what we're saying, the slightest lack of faith. Right, a person shouldn't allow himself to come to a place where he starts to say things that that would diminish his emunah. Basically, like oh my goodness, what are we gonna do? How is this gonna happen? What's gonna be now? These type of things. We're used to saying it just rolls out of the mouth. You understand what I'm saying? But the whole Indian there, that is all pagam and emunah. What do you mean how? When? This is pagam and emunah. You don't let the words come out of your mouth. So even if you're a believer in your heart, and you believe in Hashem in your heart, he says, never express disbelief even as a joke, he says. Not even if you're merely quoting someone else to ridicule their opinion. Don't even state the other guy's opinion.
Whoa.
Isn't that crazy? Think about it.
With Zohar, if someone's feeling like does that mean if someone's feeling like a lack of faith in God, shouldn't they speak that out in Bodhidu? Is this...
What do you mean?
Like if someone's feeling like God, I feel like maybe not even listening to me.
Words, deep word of emes, when you're talking to Hashem, that's totally... It's
a different category.
Yeah, I think he's talking about specifically here, Rebbe was talking about is here when a person is out, you're amongst, even if you're alone, you're coming to a place of real lack of emunah. Like I think we talked this out before. When a person's being vulnerable with Hashem and you're saying things over to Hashem, it's very good to be detailed with Hashem and to talk to Hashem about all those things, because that's how we fix those things, right? So all of the chisar and the cheshbon and nefesh part of a person's hitbodedut, and which is just also the tshuva. A person has to understand what is tshuva. The tshuva is returning Hashem back to a place where you left him out. Right? Wow. So what's the whole inyan of a chait, of a person making a veira? That is a time or place, I did something, Hashem, I forgot you, right? Or I left Hashem out of the place. Hashem wasn't there. So I disconnected myself, so to speak, from Hashem and did whatever I did. And then, he went on about his life. So what is he doing? He's returning. What is the tshuva? The tshuva is I'm returning Hashem back to the place, right? This is how all of a sudden, if a person, he makes tshuva, can become a schus for him, because now Hashem was there. When it was just you and it was an Avera, that was the absence of Hashem. Now when a person makes tshuva, he brings Hashem back to the situation, he brings Hashem back to the place. So when a person is speaking and talking to Hashem in Hitbodedut, or in his bodedus, whatever your nusach is, right? So when a person is talking to Hashem, a person has to be vulnerable. You have to speak out words of vulnerability. If you're suffering from, pagam and emunah, you should tell Hashem, my faith is lacking. I'm not holding where I should be, right? That's a different thing than being out and just saying, "Oh my God, what are we gonna do?" You know what I'm saying? I'm just using that as an example, but that's one of the most common things people do. It's like, what's gonna be? Hashem's gonna be.
Where am I gonna go next month?
Where am I gonna go next month? Where am I gonna go next month? Who's gonna take me?
What should I do, Ben? His money,
Who's gonna marry my daughter? Who's gonna do this? A person needs to live with Hashem by speaking words with Hashem all the time and keeping Hashem on the lips. He says to do this, Benu says to do the opposite of that is very, very wrong. And he said that it can be easily damaging to the person's emunah. Even to joke, he says, even as a joke, it is forbidden to say anything which implies a disrespect to Hashem. You shouldn't even disrespect Hashem joking. It's madrega, but a lot of these things that Rebbeinu is bringing, these things are common sense when the person's living with Hashem. You understand what I'm saying? Rebbeinu, he's bringing Yanam that are hard for us because we live in a world where, we constantly have excluded Hashem out of our lives, all of us, to some degree. I heard one time that, since Hashem kicked us out the garden, we've been creating gardens, keeping Hashem out of ours, right? So it's a very, very important thing that a person makes a conscious decision to start in their mind to think that I'm living with Hashem. That's really what the Munah is. That Hashem is mamash here with me. I'm not. There's no place I've been that Hashem wasn't also in that place, right? So I'm living with Hashem, and so my dibur, my words, everything, all action. So I was telling a friend over, and maybe I mentioned to you guys also too. So since 2008, I haven't said a single swear word, right? My words have not said. I haven't said a single swear word since the year 2008, right? And I don't come from a place where swear words. If you listen to my first album, Hashem Yerachem, I don't know if I said any words that were not swear words.
Where can I find it?
So you will not find it. I won't let you find it. I hope you don't find it. So, and I'm not saying that to put myself on a pedestal. I often go back and say, how did that happen? What happened? The truth was the impact of the Kivras Hashem and all the speaking that he would do, the fasting, all the prayer that we had just to find the emes. I was only looking for the emes. The encounter with Hashem was so impactful that it left a lasting effect, right? There's a few other things I wish it would have worked out in, but whatever the case is, that was one for sure. That was one of the first things that went, right?
Wow.
Of me understanding that. Now, are there worse things that a person wish that, like, okay, Hashem, I wish you could press the button easily on this one. You understand what I'm saying? Like makshavas. Like a person's makshavas. It's a much harder voter for a person to work out, the way that they think, the way, not even if you go to Tumadik thoughts, you know what I'm saying? The first time, moving to Eretz Yisrael and trying to understand and contextualize that I'm here at a certain place, and this guy keeps walking over me, he's bumping me, he's stepping me, he's cutting me in line, and all that to mean for me, coming from the hood, that he doesn't want to box, like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like a completely different mindset. I have to kind of reshape the whole entire way I think. For me, that means you want to fight. You know what I'm saying? Over here, it means nothing.
Right.
It doesn't mean nothing. So people look at you like, why are you upset? It's like, you stepped on my shoe, you bumped me on my shoulder. Like, you understand? Mindset is everything that a person takes a while from the shift his way of thinking. Right. But all that does is, only way that a person is going to be able to do this is they living with Hashem. Mamash making Hashem a part of their life. So the cry. So the word kasha, which is a difficulty, because of the Gemara, everybody, it's the kasha, it's a kashya, what's a difficulty, whatever. I used to always think that whenever somebody was saying, depending on how a person says it, the kasha, I thought they called me kushi, I was going back to the kushi, a kasha, or whatever. Kushi. What's it a kasha? What's a kasha? Kushia. Okay, so difficulty is a difficulty is right. Even if you're saying, this, what the question is, what's the kasha, whatever. He said consists of the initial letters of the words of Shema. He says Yud K Vav K. Right. He says Koli Ekra. It says to hear Hashem and Hashem should hear my voice. Is coming from Tehillim and 27. And the 27th chapter of Tehillim. By the way, I'm saying Kaf Zion. If you can make it a part of your life. I tried to read this one like as much as possible, but if a person wants to grow in their emunah and bitachon to Hashem, read this psalm over and over again. Kaf Zion, Kaf Zion, Kaf Zion, Lamed Zion also, Lamed Zion also. So he says, when you cry out in your heart, this in itself, he says, is an aspect of emunah. And you may have many doubts and questions, but when you cry in your heart, it shows that you still have a spark of emunah. And a person at least is crying. And get us to a place that at least we're sensitive enough to know, even if a person's struggling at least, you still want to be sensitive enough to know, Hashem, I'm not really where I want to be, So Rabbeinu talks about, Hester Panim, or he talks about a star, Shepatoka star, that the person is in a mamasha, in a deep, deep sleep, so to speak, spiritually, where a person at that point, where he's at that low place, he forgets that he was searching for Hashem. He forgets what his whole entire mission or everything else. At least in a star of one, at least the person still has some type of recollection or some type of recognition that I'm supposed to be serving Hashem. I'm messing up or whatever. But if a person is able to scream out, and I've done this before too, and the mamish in the time of Mochen Dekad, it's like, Hashem, where are you? It's not supposed to be like this. It's just mamish. The relationship's not supposed to be like this. Hashem, you mamish scream out to Hashem, and that little spark of emunah of Hashem just giving you a little bit of a kiss, a little bit of a haggish that let Hashem let a person know that I'm still here. I'm still here with you. So he's saying that even this little cry, this could bring a person to emunah, true emunah. I'm thinking it's saying true emunah here, but I would like to see actually. Let me see where he's taking this from. He doesn't bring it over here. Sichot Haran. If Sichot Haran or whatever. Let's see if it says Amunah Shlema. I have a feeling that it probably says Amunah Shlema. That just from this cry that a person cries out to Hashem. So he says, without this spark, the spark that a person has, you wouldn't cry out at all. And if you didn't have something there, some little light shining on a person, he would never even cry out to Hashem. And so he says, understand this. And there's another thing Rebbe brings later also too, but when a person's davening and fighting to daven with his slavos and daven, crying out to Hashem, and a person goes with the full coal and he really sings to Hashem, and it's just so much to restore a person's emunah, bring him to true faith. You never understand. It gets it removes so many different klippas that are stopping, trying to block the person's tefillas, and stop him from being able to connect with his tefillas. I just want to see if this says Amunah Shlema. Because if so, I'm going to start screaming every day now. And just scream. Not just at my kids. They had you down, man, I'm telling you. All the way here, I was still hearing what you were saying.
No.
I forgot some of your jokes. We're going to work on your material. We're going to work on some of your material.
Oh my. That's it.
Please.
That's it.
I assumed you were freestyling.
No. Wait. Actually, I have to stop.
I'll sponsor.
You'll sponsor?
I'll sponsor some coaching lessons. I use my boss.
I'm never allowed back in the black.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
That's
I use my
it.
boss.
Yeah, right. If Donna kept the party
Probably
going.
Mutards actually.
It
use my
says over
sermon.
here,
It's so
kids, it's
painful.
Akabalibo. For outside, who they gonna know?
He's an onion.
Afal P, Shibayim Love Kishos, Love Kishos, Im, Kolazon, Melgon, Tzokek, person Tzokek, Alkopan and Belibo, Avidayan Dain, Yeshbo Nitzutz, Nakuda Meamuna, Kadosh. Kim Has B'Shalayim, Mayayabo, Oshum Nakuda, Meamuna Cloud. It's not giving me that part over here that I was looking for though, because it's not bringing it out verbatim. So what's that? One second. This is Bagam al Yedei Hatzaka. Zochen le'emuna. Haynu she'atzaka be'atzma. Hu b'chinat emuna k'niskar la'ayu. But he doesn't bring Amunah Shlema. But he says it brings over here the true Amunah. Whatever true Amunah is.
What's the difference between true Amunah and Amunah Shlema?
That's what we were trying to find out right now. Well, the verdict is still out. So next time I see the Rav, I'm going to have to ask him. I translate it as Amunah. Doesn't say Amunah Shlema. The true Amunah, whatever it is. Whatever true Amunah is, you can get it. I'm assuming it's a drop less than Amunah Shlema.
But that's by screaming out to God?
By screaming out to
Screaming
Hashem.
or crying specifically?
Crying out, specifically
tears
crying. But he said
specifically?
crying out, screaming out, but crying.
Crying specifically.
Yeah. We all have what to cry to Hashem about.
Right.
The emphasis is we don't know how much it's purifying for a person's neshama, for a person to cry. It's like mamash, it cleans so much for a person, especially a person who's crying over Averos, crying over the chisaron between him and Hashem means so much to Hashem. Even if a person doesn't feel it is, you don't know how much you cleansed, you know. How many things you were able to fix just with honest tears to Hashem about it. Rebbeinu brings it. I mean, I think it's very early on that she talks about the importance of crying. He said a person shouldn't make himself cry. You shouldn't go out of your way to force yourself to cry that you forget to talk to Hashem, with real words and with honesty. But a person, if you can cry and you got to that place of crying, it's so precious to Hashem. And a person should know any time he's crying before Hashem, Hashem is bringing him in. Hashem is mamish bringing him in. So this cry can also, and you'll see this also too when you guys start to have kids also, Kids crying, an honest cry, not the kid that's crying because the other kid patched them or whatever the case is, but a true cry, nothing worse than, I often think about this, a few times my kid's been sick over the years, he had one of the hospitals, none of us should know about this, and you see that your kid suffering and you can't do anything about it. There's no greater pain than looking at your child crying or suffering or going through something and you can't do anything about it. Now, the interesting part, if a person is able to take that moment and think about their pain, what it means to Hashem, but he can actually do something about it. You understand? Hashem's not limited.
So when he does it, how does it not make people feel like God doesn't listen to them and also build resentment towards Hashem?
What do you mean in terms of?
If they know so much that he could take away their pain and then he's not answering their prayers, or let's say it's been a very long time, they're still suffering with the same thing for many years, then how is that? It could be much farther from Hashem. He's like, you're not helping me.
It does happen sometimes like that for people. Sometimes they start to feel that they're more distant. They grow more distant from Hashem because they don't feel like Hashem answered their prayers. So the truth is this, is that, I was just having this discussion somewhere else, that what we have to understand is that most of the time, in most cases, when a person has suffering going on in their life and they start to, people start to blame Hashem, how can Hashem do this, and whatever the case is, whether it's before the davening, after everything else, a person has to understand that suffering comes into the world not because of too much Hashem, not because Hashem was too involved in your life. That's why I got sick. It's a chisaron of Hashem that creates it. You understand? The chisaron of Hashem creates suffering in the world. That's what happens. That's how we, and we know this from Hashem telling us, especially when it comes to things like this. And it's very tough because things are so nuanced and we're so far away from that place where Hashem wants us actually to be, and we're in a very, very deep gullus. But Hashem tells us that, if you follow my program, everything I brought up on Mitzrayim, I wouldn't bring up on you. Right? Hashem is very clear about these things. And Hashem Rofecha. Hashem is telling us that there's a certain program in a way. Now, to say that each person that gets sick, that they won't follow the program of Hashem, the truth is most likely we all have work to do. We all have work to do, and nobody knows, and you can't say why a person's suffering. But the suffering itself is caused from a chisaron of Hashem and not too much Hashem. It's not because Hashem is too involved in your life. There's too much hashgacha going on here. Hashem needs to back off. So Hashem, how could you do this to me? This is, you like Hashem's, you're messing stuff up. You understand? Something's going on. So this is all this comes from in itself is what I'm trying to say. Michal is a pagam in emunah. Is that the emunah is not shalem. When a person has emunah shlema, which is exactly why I wanted to bring this actually, because you brought up, you wanted to talk about simcha over here. So he brings first over here that what we already know from the Gemara, right? So when a person has something that's good for the person, they need to give a bracha to Hashem, need to bless Hashem. It also brings over here, it's also brought in the Shulchan Aruch, that also too when things are not good, also too we also make a bracha to Hashem. We also say, Hashem is good. Hashem is good, and Hashem will do good. Hashem is always good. But he brings over here a very, very important point, and he talks about people that are really holy madrigas and how they look at it. But he brings over here, let's say, we bring Emes on the other side, but Tova Emetiv, and also to Brok Dayan Emes on the things that don't go. So person is also chayav. He brings over here. This is the two. Hold on one second. Make sure I'm in the right place. Resh Chaf Beis. Yes, David. Resh Chaf Beis. Yes. Vadat Shlomo. Okay. But that shlema a person has, when nefesh but simcha all the toiva, just to make sure I'm at the right place. And say, well, the Ra. So he says also when the Ra person needs to. But the Ovdei Hashem, he says over here, Tova Tam, it says for them, that person also too, it's a simcha for them, even in the time of tzara, even when they're going through something. Why? Because they get the mitzvah to be makabel me'ahava, he says. Hu gazar alab me'Hashem. Hashem brings down. Hashem is bringing this gezerah, and for them, they look at it, this is another way for me to engage in avodas Hashem. You understand? So Mahava said this is bringing them to true simcha. For that, they have simcha even in the suffering itself, because this is the way Hashem. Now, this is madrega, we're not in this madrega. But the reality is that once I know it, once I already know, then I know how the program's supposed to be. So at any point or any moment that I'm feeling I'm upset with Hashem because things are not going my way, or He's not answering me fast enough, or things are not going the way that I want to do it. It's not working out the way that I want. Person has to think back and to remember, at least I'm not on that madrega. There's many madregas I haven't reached there yet, but it doesn't mean that it's not emes, right? I'm already at the place of emes. The real emes is that this is the way that Hashem is relating to me right now. Right, and the truth is that most suffering person doesn't realize that the nakuda is not to get the thing the person's davening about, it's to get the person davening. Right. Hashem wants the kesher from a person. Person suffers a lot of times because Hashem's the pinnacle of whatever it is. Even if you receive a Yeshua from what you're davening about, right? The pinnacle of where Hashem's trying to get the person to in the relationship is the davening, is the crying out to Him. Wow. That's the main nakuda. Why? Because that's the ultimate kesher. No, it's not. Why?
The God gives someone pain and suffering just so they could cry out to Him.
Well, if you think of your pain and suffering, would you cry out to Him?
No.
Okay.
If you're saying
I love my kids. I love my kids, right? So I want to do everything I can to prompt and push them in every single way, right? And let's really think about it. There are scary things in life, so not every single thing, right? But if we think about most of the tzaras and different things that we've been through in life, right? When a person looks back on it, and you can say, wow, Baruch Hashem, you brought me from a long way. But there's a lot of things we could look back and laugh at and be like, wow, Hashem, this is, it's back then, So Hashem, He's laughing already before it happens. You think that it's some big sorrow, some major thing going on by you. Hashem knows it is something small, but for you, you think it's a mountain, it's a huge thing or whatever. And Hashem's going to bring you to that place where you cry out to Hashem. And when you sing of Hashem, it was all for that. It was all for that. The Yeshua was not predicated on that. Hashem was probably going to save the person anyway. It's a lot of times. If a person's, think about it. I saw one time, I repeat this a lot. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Steve Hart, one of these guys that, non-Jewish motivational speaker guys, whatever. But he said, it wasn't him. He's definitely a black guy. I'm not saying Tony Robbins. He identifies as black. I don't know. I know where he's older. But...
Steve.
Probably Steve Harvey.
Joseph McClendon III.
Yeah. Yidden were passing a lot of his videos were going around during Corona or whatever. Why, I don't know, but whatever. But he said one time addressing a group of guys, he says, listen, everybody in here has 100% accuracy from getting over bad days. Could you hear? Right? So ultimately, most of the suffering, all these things they're going through whatever. If a person really sees it, this is all smoke. It's not real. Hashem, you just want me to cry out to you. You just want me to talk to you. Okay, Hashem, I'm here. Hashem, we should do this more often. We should be involved more often. Huh?
Why does God want that connection so much?
Because Hashem created the whole entire bria for His kavod, right? So the whole entire Indian is. I've always looked at it this way, and I think we all understand that if Hashem is full of this amazing ahava, right? So Hashem tells us and commands us in the Shema, we have to love Him, right? Like we have to. Hashem is commanding us to love Him, right? But that's only after we're revealed first, ahava soilim. Hashem loves us. So only after we realize that Hashem loves us are we then commanded to love Hashem back, right? Because Hashem is full of love and Him creating the whole entire bria, Hashem, is his desire is to to send out, to spread that love, to cast that love, whatever. And it's a natural thing. Like Rebbe Nachman said, he says that if a person knew just a little bit of how much Hashem loved them, they drop the whole world and run after Hashem. It would be so powerful that it will alter a person's whole entire life, that if they knew, he said, just even a little bit. We think we know Hashem loves us. Just because we hear it and say that, we don't know to the degree how much Hashem loves us. Because Rebbe Nachman says it will alter our whole entire path in life. We stop, drop everything, and run after Hashem with everything we have, right? If we knew a little bit. So therefore, Hashem's desire is for us, because Hashem knows what's good for us, is to also replicate that love and give it back to Him, which is brought about by the kesher, by the connection, communication. Where there's no communication, there's no relationship. Where there's communication, there's a relationship. And then sometimes it's bad communication, and that's what we're talking about.
Right. At least
People, Hashem, why'd you do this to me? And it's a valid. I know the feeling. We all have been there, right? And it has its place also, because without being able to get to that place of crying out, at least first the person realizes one thing: I'm a ma'amin still. I still believe in Hashem, right? I believe He does bad things. So I got to work on myself, but I believe in Hashem. That's the first part is, and then the second part. And the second part of it is that really the emphasis is I believe Hashem is good. How do I know that I really believe Hashem is good? Because I'm calling out for Him to do good. You understand what I'm saying? I'm calling out for Him to give me what I feel is justice, even though I'm wrong. Hashem's 1,000% right? But I know He's just because I'm still crying out to Him in the midst of saying, Hashem, how could you do this? Right? Why are you so upset with Hashem if you didn't believe He was good? Right? It's because you person believes that the Mamin and the Tov of Hashem, he knows that Hashem is absolute good. So when he's crying at Hashem, Hashem, you're not acting like you're supposed to. You're not acting like what the Sephorim are saying, right? To my own. But as he grows, he hops and he starts to realize that, wow, Hashem, you were doing good for me all along. He says, even if you have not yet attained this, the cry itself is still very beneficial. So even if you haven't got to that place where you're able to eliminate everything and you can elevate and strengthen yourself completely in your munah to all the questions that a person may have had with Hashem have disappeared, he says, even if you haven't got to that place yet, the cry itself is still very beneficial for a person. So Benu next brings that there are various kinds of emunah that a person has. There's emunah that is only in the heart, but a person may have so much faith that it spreads to all of his limbs. It gets to inside the whole entire body. All right? And so he says the Kabbalistic writings mention that when one's washing his hands to eat bread, one should raise them up towards his head in order to receive holiness. I do this, and if they're not high enough, my wife lifts them up even higher. I say, you got a good wife. She this week made sure she said my hands weren't high enough. She wants to get more bracha, more bracha. So he says, your munah must extend into your hands in order to believe that by raising them towards your head, you receive holiness. To even, you understand, that, they tell me I'm going to receive more kedusha and everything like that. But even a person just lifting up his hands, person is acting out that simple faith in order for him to do it, right? Because nobody will ever do something stam, right? If somebody's going to tell you just to do something, just to do it, you wouldn't do it. You'd have to believe in the reason why you're doing it in order for you to do it. Right. So he's saying, person, even that's commendable. He says, but without emunah, it is a meaningless gesture. A person just lift up his hands. I don't have emunah. Whatever. We do this. This is something that we do in my house. Right? So we do it. So he says all your mitzvah, your mitzvahs are emunah. This is from Psalm. So he says if you're strong in your emunah, you eventually come to understand what you believe in. It's a big nakuda. Big nakuda. A lot of people always asking, why is this? Why is it that? Why is it that? And I never could understand why is this? Why is that? Why is this? I'm not picking on you, by the way. Why is this? Why is this? Why that? I don't know. We just were having this conversation.
I'm offended either way.
We're just having this conversation. I just want to let you know I wasn't down. You're up. We were having your confessions. Natana, you're too easy to pick on. That makes you easy to love.
Thank
makes
you.
you easy to love.
It's still hard for me.
It's hard for him.
I haven't achieved my goal yet.
You haven't achieved your goal yet?
Not yet.
So Rabbeinu is saying believing leads to understanding.
Huh?
Rabbeinu is saying
The
believing
believing leads to the
It's like
understanding.
the opposite of what you expect.
Opposite of what I said.
Right.
But by and large, we are the nation of Na'aseh V'Nishma. Right? So that's a DNA thing.
That's exactly the.
That's the whole Inyan. That's in the DNA. It's Na'aseh V'Nishma. First we do, and then afterwards we believe. Everybody else can be busy with questions. But the truth is that the Muna itself, so many different times I've been at people's house and there's the one kid in the family struggling. Why do we do this? Why do we do that? Why do we do that? And their parents don't give an answer. Most of the time they don't know the answer. They also just been doing it for a very long time or whatever.
Right.
And I didn't know the answer. But eventually the Shabbosim kept happening and life went on as normal. And I came across all the answers of why we did all the things. But I didn't care. The truth is that a person has to be, you have to be honest with yourself that once there's a certain level of relationship there between a person and another, I'm saying even on a human being level, you start to believe. You know which friends in your life you could believe when they tell you a story. You know what friends you should check another source, right? Mm-hmm. Every person knows that. I have, and it doesn't always mean, I have one friend, he used to tell me like this is, back in the day when people used to still, before all the streaming, used to watch movies on the DVDs, the CDs of this. So he said to me, he says, listen, my friends are my friends. I have friends who I can lend stuff to. I have friends who I don't lend stuff. I don't have any less love or anything like that. I love you up until here, right?
Boundary,
yeah, there's a boundary of our love, is that I don't lend things to you. You understand? Because it never comes back.
Right.
Right. So based on the relationship, how it is.
How many times you get lost while driving? You just know.
It's not time. Cheshbon nefesh. You like that? Save it for cheshbon nefesh. So the stronger the person is in their emunah, the more and more they're going to understand it. The more and more that they believe in Hashem, the more and more they're going to understand what it is that Hashem wants them to do. It's the same thing with a person's tafkid. Rebbe says a person won't leave the world without knowing why Hashem put them here, if they're engaged in his bodhidus every day. Why? I'm spending time with Hashem every day. I'm a real mammon. Hashem is now going to communicate things to me. Right? So I always say, for all of us who are busy, because I don't think the news has ever been more juicier than what it is. But we have a raya. Rabbeinu always was looking at the news. Skofeor brings Rabbeinu always wanted the news. He didn't have a newspaper, but he was always asking people for the news. He took it and turned it into Torah. We take it and turn it into arguments. It's two different things. But the news is the news, right? But can you imagine that Be'emes, like, Rabbeinu, he needed the news? Rabbeinu didn't need the news. He knew what was going on, whether it was from hearing or whatever. But there's such a madrega where Hashem himself won't let the person go without knowing. Why? We see with Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu, he said, can I hold it back from Avram Avinu? Can I hold it back? So Be'emes, the more and more a person is engrossed in the relationship with Hashem, and they've built their emunah to such a place, and it's not a, drive-by meeting with Hashem, but they actually, they take up a residency with Hashem, so to speak, like David HaMelech, B'shavti b'veis Hashem kol yemei chayai. Every day I'm here, Hashem. Every day I'm in this place. I've taken up a residency by Hashem. When a person's over there, then the secrets are opened up to the person. That's why Rebbeinu brings that if a person wants to taste the organos, he wants the secrets, he needs to engage in a lot of his devotees. For that, from then, Hashem starts to reveal secrets to the person and to the individual, thus showing him why he's here. What's his tafkid? Why he's here in this world. So once a person has built up himself to such a degree in their emunah with Hashem, then you're going to start to understand things. At the outset, he said you have no option but to have emunah, because you cannot understand the matter. But through emunah, you will come to understand the matter. Because there's a certain, I think as, Rebbeinu bring it. This is the Ikur Chokhmah. It's for sure in Likutei Moharan. I can't remember which Torah. It brings it. The Ikur Chokhmah is emunah, which is really it.
Oh.
That's real Chokhmah. It's emunah. Like, you know what I'm saying? To be able to chop and understand something as a matter of, muscle memory and tissues, really a chitzoni type of thing. It's not really to the essence, to the inner of a person. That the chokhmah has to be right in the emunah. What'd you say?
There's this idea that, like, with the spheres,
Yeah.
that like, each sphere, like a sphere above one,
Right.
is kind of nested on the
It's
inside.
connected on the
So
inside,
the
right.
inside of Chokhmah Mamash is Keter, which is Emunah.
It's Emunah.
Yeah, that's like,
It's a Keter, it's
that's
Emunah.
exactly-
1,000% right. 1,000% right. So this is the main chokhmah is a person that has emunah, has faith. I mean, you see it in the simpleton and the sophisticate. The guy was a mamash brainiac. He knew everything, all the languages, all the whatever. The simple emunah. The guy can't make a shoe.
The
You
triangle
understand?
shoes.
Can't make a shoe, a normal shoe. You understand? And look how elevated he becomes because of his emunah. Eventually, you get to greet the king when you're that way.
Wow.
But the person who's allowing himself to be
The one
blocked,
who wants to define simplicity, the one that wants to, know everything, he ends up.
You're not wrong.
the love is real. The love is felt in this place.
By some.
If he didn't love you, he wouldn't say anything.
Yeah, no, if he didn't love you, he would not say it. It would never come out.
Yeah, but if you hate it. The opposite of love is indifference.
So he says there will then be new, more exalted levels that will still be hidden from you and beyond your ability to understand. And here again, you will have to make the effort over here. Here again, you have to make the effort to have emunah. And so it's going to go darker to dark. A person's going to get to one place, to another place, until he uncovers all those hidden things that are hidden from the person. And you must always start with the faith regarding the levels that are yet hidden from you. But eventually you'll understand them as well. It's an ongoing process, and your emunah must be so strong that it spreads to every one of your limbs. This emunah will bring you to true chokhmah. The Rebbeinu brings him. I read ahead that time. Usually I read ahead. I didn't read ahead. I didn't know that was going to be there.
Oh, wow.
See?
That's cool. Wow.
True emunah is going to bring you to the true chokhmah. So that's it.
Yes.
Mamash, this is where it all comes from. Once I believe in Hashem, it's going to bring me to such a high place. Mamash, that you're going to be able to understand. And you know what happens? I've seen so many different times, many different tekufas. The emesis, everything at that point becomes an agent to illuminate what the emes is for the person, because he's growing. You know, there's nothing better than a person taking a path of simplicity, of speaking to Hashem every day, learning this form of Rebbeinu, and living and trying to actually live with Torahs, and mamash live that way. You begin to see the whole entire life is that Torah. That Torah becomes alive for the person, and mamash start to see so many different things. And the more and more that a person is Isaac and his Vodadus, everything becomes an agent. You will hear a random conversation, and it's mamash. You know it's Devar Hashem.
It's your answer.
It's your answer. And you know it. The next guy over there was just two guys over here talking, or whatever the case is. But for you, that was that next level of emunah. You needed to understand something. Whether it was a person, this gosh, a personal thing for a person. Hashem has infinite ways of speaking and bringing us to that understanding. Rebbeinu wrote on himself in terms of dagas that he didn't know that there was a higher level. He just kept on going up. He just didn't know there was something else up there. You know what I mean? And that's a very humble thing to say. But the truth is, Rebbeinu, he was humble. He already said himself he was humble. So you can take his word for it, that he didn't have any idea that there was another madriga. Like, I was trying to think of, what did Baal Shem do the first time he could start hearing people's thoughts? Like, what was that? What type of freak out do you have at that point? You start knowing what a person's thinking over there, There's such people like that in the world today. I know some people who have, not because of the Baal Shem, maybe they are the Baal Shem, who knows? But there are certain people that have, who have certain gifts. Some people don't believe in it, whatever the case is, but I've seen some real things, telepathy and different things like that. There's certain people that have certain gifts like that, but I'd be freaked out. They'd have to put me chas v'shalom in some room or something. Like, think about it. Like, if you just all of a sudden got to such a place you could start hearing what people thinking and conversations or whatever, I'm assuming that it takes some getting used to, with some of that.
Just a bit.
Right. But different levels and levels of chokhmah that a person can get to. We're finished with that one. We're moving on.
So is that how prayer works? That basically when you pray, you start attributing the meaning to your prayers being answered? Like, you're more sensitive to what you hear in conversation because it might be a prayer to your answer. answer to your prayer rather than if you didn't pray, you would have just not found much about the conversation.
So absolutely, you become more cognizant. You become more spiritually aware of the things that are going on around you, and it's not just because of the prayer itself. It's what the prayer is doing to you. So it's taking the lave of stone of heaven and it's cracking away to bring you to a baser lave, right? To a softer heart, right? So then when Hashem is speaking to us. Most people are looking for audible. Hashem is speaking to us in the heart. A lot of times when Hashem is speaking to a person, it's coming from inside. So when the person is going through whatever they're going through and they're trying to elevate themselves in terms of coming closer to Hashem, the test is always going to be is hearing Hashem in a way that a person, I think the proper words is that is clear. There's a concept called love language, right? Yeah. So love language is that each person has a love language. They talk about a lot with kids and parenting. This kid has this type of love language. This is I say the belt works for all of them. That's how I grew up.
It's universal.
It's universal. It fits all 5 in one. It's a 5-for-1 special.
You cannot plot your kids today in 2025. It doesn't work.
He does not endorse.
They don't make us the same way they used to. Me, the belt worked all the time. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry.
We all got the same medicine when I was a kid. This one I got to talk to very softly and gently. This one I need to be more chazak with, and this one you don't say nothing to. You just give a look. You know, each one have the love language of how you deal with each and every person. So, taking Hashem as our father, as our tati, he knows how to speak to us. He knows how I'm going to speak directly to you, and he's not going to pick up on what the conversation was, right? But Hashem knows how to get into each and every single one of us. The main thing is making ourselves available, softening the heart to where we're ready and become a place where Hashem, we can take on Devar Hashem, we can take on the Hadracha from Hashem, that Hashem wants to guide us. To think that Hashem put us in the world and He wants us to just be makabel everything like a old and not to have any type of kasher and not, it just doesn't even make any sense. We don't read this. This is not what we see. We don't see this from tzaddikim. We don't see this from Tanakh. We don't see this, and now everybody has to make an excuse, for after some Hester Panim has come, and the excuse of when it comes to secular things, everybody wants to be the best at it, right? Nobody wants to be just a lawyer. They want to be the top guy. Nobody wants to be just the car salesman. They want to be on the top. Nobody wants to be, it's a big difference.
Number 2.
I tell you some cultural things that are pretty different. And I can say this now, Trump's back in office, you can say whatever you want.
Right.
Is that one of the biggest differences is being in the black community. At times, guys will bring up sports all the time. And be talking, and then the debate is, who, LeBron, Michael, and all this other stuff like that, and Kobe, whatever. I've been in a lot of places like that, right? Where guys are going back and forth, and this, we grow up like that, arguing about sports and different things like that. Right. So what happens, it changed. Once I was around Yidden, and I started to hear a lot of these, guys going gather and talking, especially in the more modern places, whatever. It went from the players to who owns the stadiums and who says who's the best, and this one owns that one and that. It's just we never got to that place in our conversations growing up. Never got to that. You understand what I'm saying? It's a mindset automatically of where a person start thinking about who owns this real estate, who owns that one, and this stadium and that. The whole conversation leaves from the players. You understand?
You can go even higher.
It's a mindset. Go up higher. You know what I'm saying?
Who's owners?
I was asking.
Owners.
Let's think about the owners. Let's think about the owners. I never thought about the owners. Anyway, right?
Mark Cuban.
Different type of conversations you're having over there.
Right.
But Hashem knows how to speak to every single one of us. He knows the love language. And Hashem knows how to bring us to that place. You guys are taking us off topic over here. Okay,
that's
so Amun and Hashem, and not in the means. This is what we just talked about. Right? Not in the means itself. So many people make the mistake of turning the means, he says, through which something comes about, into the intermediary between themselves and Hashem. Right? I'm going to take the means, not Hashem. I'm going to make it, this is what we're talking about, the Avodah Zarah already. So they do believe in Hashem, but they also believe in the intermediary. Right? Saying that we have no option but to depend on a particular means in order to bring about a certain result. It can only be if it happens this way. This in itself is already a person dealing with a avodah zarah. We say by non-Unitarian Christians generally, which is the role for probably most Christians or whatever. So Rabbi Tovi usually says that they do believe in Hashem. They just also have a boyfriend. They also believe in the guy on the side, right? So it's like an intermediary. Unitarian Christians, they believe in Hashem. They also believe that differently than we do, but there's a idea where people can talk, the Christians are that. People do the same thing. Every person does the same thing. The moment that you start to believe that it can only be this type of way, Hashem's going to bless it only with this. Or like Hashem's limited, like Hashem can't move around certain things. We don't believe in intermediaries. We believe in Hashem. So, for example, they put their faith in their business activities. They think as if they cause their livelihood, placing all of the emphasis on their own endeavors as if God would somehow not be able to provide for their livelihood without them. Like Hashem needs your hishtadlus, because if your hishtadlus, which is really a joke anyway, but a person thinks that if I don't put in the hishtadlus and I don't give Hashem the kli, then it's not going to work. The truth is, Yosef Atzadik was decreed to get out of prison, so therefore Paro had dreams. It's not Paro had dreams, and this is what caused Yosef Atzadik to come out of prison. You understand what I'm saying?
Wow.
It's the way of thinking. Hashem will bring it about anyway. Hashem was going to already do this, right? So then Hashem creates a cause to bring it about. We don't believe that this is, only because this happened, then this happened. No, that's not the way it works. So, likewise, it says people put all the emphasis in the means to which a cure comes about. They believe in the medicine. The medicine is if without the medicine, Hashem does not have the power to heal. He says this is also incorrect. He says, Kodesh Baruch Hu, he says he is the cause of all causes, and there is absolutely no need for any one particular means. Sibata Sibot. Famous words of Yisharib. So even while resorting to a given means to try to bring about something, a person must believe only in Hashem and not to put his faith in the means. So a lot of times it's decreed, Rabbi Yitzhak Breiter says from Shemaim, that we're not allowed to see Hashem's hand. Right? Lafia Madrega. Some people, it's more megale to that person. It's more relevant and clear to that person than it is for another person because of the Madrega. However, the way that it's decreed is that usually there's some type of appearance of a siba, which is all really a test. It's an Nissim for a person, that if he's going to believe that Hashem actually brought it about, or if he believes that it's because of this thing. So it's the constant test that a person has to live with, whether they're engaging in business, whether they're engaging in things for cure or different things like that for good health, that a person has to believe that there is no need for this thing. Hashem, I'm going to do it because this is the way you're working with us right now. But the person doesn't take his mind off the fact that ultimately Hashem is the one doing it all the time.